Hey, story lovers! For more inspiring, shocking, and emotional tales, make sure to subscribe to Dream Nest Stories.
So blanketed the bustling streets of New York City as festive lights twinkled against the crisp winter night. Everywhere, people were laughing, shopping, and celebrating the holiday season. The air was alive with the spirit of Christmas. Yet, for some, this joy seemed like a distant dream. In a dimly lit alley just off Fifth Avenue, a small group of homeless children huddled together for warmth. Among them was Liam, an 8-year-old boy with piercing blue eyes and a resilient spirit. Beside him, his younger sister Lily clung to his arm, her tiny frame shivering under a threadbare coat. Despite their circumstances, Liam tried to cheer her up. "Maybe Santa will find us this year, Lil. He has a way of surprising people," Liam said, his voice a mix of hope and desperation. Lily, too cold to respond, simply nodded and buried her face in his chest. Around them, the other children were quiet, their eyes darting toward the streetlights as if searching for a miracle. Unbeknownst to them, a man was walking down the street, blending in with the holiday crowd. Dressed in a black coat and a wool beanie, Keanu Reeves was enjoying a rare, quiet evening. Known for his modest demeanor and acts of kindness, he often spent his holidays looking for ways to help those in need. As Keanu passed the alley, the faint sound of muffled voices caught his attention. Pausing, he turned to see the children. Their hunched forms and worn clothing immediately pulled at his heartstrings. Quietly, he approached, his footsteps soft on the snow-covered ground. "Hey there," Keanu said, crouching to their level. His warm smile softened the children's initial fear. "What are you kids doing out here on a night like this?" Liam stood protectively in front of Lily. "We're just staying out of the cold," he said cautiously. Keanu nodded, respecting Liam's bravery. "Do you like hot chocolate?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with kindness. Liam hesitated, but then nodded slowly. "Yeah, but we don't have any money." Keanu chuckled lightly. "Lucky for you, I happen to know where the best hot chocolate in the city is, and my treat." Though skeptical, the children followed him to a nearby cafe. They warmed their hands on steaming mugs of cocoa, their faces lighting up with smiles for the first time in days. Keanu listened to their stories, his heart breaking with each word, about lost homes, absent families, and a lack of hope. That night, as they returned to their spot in the alley, Keanu made them a promise. "I'll be back tomorrow. Christmas is about miracles, and I think it's time you had one." Meanwhile, across town, another figure was preparing for his own Christmas plans. Barron Trump, the teenage son of former President Trump, was quietly organizing a charity event for homeless shelters. Despite his family's wealth, Barron had grown up with a strong sense of compassion, often inspired by his mother's humanitarian work. Little did Barron know his path would soon cross with Keanu's, setting the stage for a Christmas that would inspire millions. The frosty morning sun peeked over the Manhattan skyline as Keanu Reeves set out with a renewed purpose. The image of Liam, Lily, and the other homeless children had weighed heavily on his mind all night. He couldn't shake the thought of them spending Christmas in an alley, without warmth, family, or joy. Determined to make a difference, Keanu began making calls. His first stop was a high-end toy store. As the door swung open, Keanu walked straight to the manager, his no-nonsense charm instantly commanding attention. "I need toys. Lots of them," he said, pulling out his credit card, "and I need them delivered to the shelter on 12th Street by this afternoon." The manager, initially surprised, quickly realized who he was speaking to and jumped into action. As the staff began gathering dolls, board games, and plush toys, Keanu added, "And warm clothes, coats, hats, gloves, whatever you have. Make it festive." Meanwhile, at the Trump residence, Barron Trump was finalizing the details for his charity event. The young teen, though often in the public eye, preferred to stay out of the spotlight. This event wasn't about publicity, it was about creating change. His team had secured a banquet hall, decorated with Christmas lights, and planned a holiday feast for hundreds of homeless individuals. But something felt incomplete to Barron. Sitting in his room, he scrolled through articles about the rising number of homeless children in the city. His heart ached at the thought of kids spending Christmas on the streets. After a moment of reflection, he decided to take a more personal approach. "Cancel my car service," Barron told his assistant. "I'm heading out on my own." He donned a simple jacket and a scarf, blending in as he stepped out into the bustling streets. With a backpack full of small gifts and warm socks, Barron visited parks, alleys, and street corners, handing out what he could to those in need. It was during one of these impromptu stops that Barron and Keanu's paths crossed. In a small alley, Keanu was delivering hot meals to the same group of children he'd met the night before. Liam's eyes lit up as he saw the man return, carrying bags of food, blankets, and even a Christmas tree. "Wow, you weren't kidding about a miracle," Liam said, his voice filled with awe. Keanu laughed, tousling the boy's hair. "Told you I'd be back, but this is just the start." As Keanu handed out the supplies, a tall figure approached. Barron, noticing the commotion, had stopped to see what was happening. At first, the children were wary of this new stranger, but Barron's gentle demeanor quickly put them at ease. "Mind if I join?" Barron asked Keanu, holding up his backpack, filled with gifts. Keanu recognized him immediately, but didn't let on. "Of course, the more the merrier," he said with a smile. The Baron knelt beside Lily, offering her a stuffed bear. "Merry Christmas," he said softly, his voice kind and genuine. Lily's eyes widened as she clutched the bear tightly, tears streaming down her face. Together, Keanu and Barron spent hours with the children, decorating the small tree and turning the alley into a makeshift Christmas wonderland. Passers-by stopped, some offering donations, others simply marveling at the scene. The unlikely duo worked seamlessly, their shared goal of spreading kindness uniting them in an unforgettable way. By evening, Keanu invited Barron to join him at the shelter, where the children could spend Christmas in warmth and comfort. Barron, seeing the importance of the moment, agreed without hesitation. End of chapter 35. As they walked together, Barron turned to Keanu and said, "This feels right. Like, this is what Christmas is supposed to be about." Keanu nodded. "It's not about how much we have, it's about how much we give." Little did they know, their simple acts of kindness were inspiring everyone who witnessed them. Videos of their interactions began circulating online, with captions like, "A Christmas Miracle in New York," and "Keanu Reeves and Barron Trump team up to spread joy." The stage was set for a Christmas Eve that no one would forget. The shelter on 12th Street, usually a humble and understated place, had been completely transformed. Twinkling lights adorned the windows, garlands hung from the walls, and the smell of freshly cooked turkey and warm apple pie filled the air. Volunteers bustled about, setting up tables with festive decorations, each plate accompanied by a handwritten card, wishing the recipient a Merry Christmas. Keanu and Barron arrived together, their arms laden with gifts and supplies. The children from the alley followed close behind, their faces alight with wonder. For many of them, this was the first time they'd experienced anything resembling a real Christmas. No one had ever spoken to them like this before. "Welcome," the shelter manager greeted them, her eyes wide with gratitude as she realized who her guests were. "This is incredible. You've brought so much joy to these kids." Keanu smiled humbly. "It's the least we could do." Barron, not one to seek attention, quickly began unpacking the gifts. He set up a table filled with toys, from action figures to board games, ensuring every child would have something special to unwrap. Across the room, Keanu helped set up a small stage for the evening's entertainment. As families began to trickle in, the atmosphere grew more festive. Parents, many of whom had spent years struggling to provide for their children, were overwhelmed by the warmth and generosity they encountered. Children laughed as they played with their new toys, their giggles echoing through the room like a melody of hope. Barron noticed Liam sitting quietly at a corner table, his little sister Lily asleep on his lap. The boy had been through so much, yet he carried himself with a resilience that moved Barron deeply. "Hey, Liam," Barron said, sitting down beside him. "You doing okay?" Liam nodded but kept his eyes on his sister. "Yeah, this is more than I ever imagined. But I just wish my mum was here to see it. Barron placed a hand on Liam's shoulder, his expression thoughtful. You know, Liam, your mum would be so proud of you. You've taken care of your sister and stayed strong when it wasn't easy. That takes a lot of courage. Liam looked up, his eyes glistening. Thanks. I just wanted to have a better life than we did. Barron reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wrapped box. Here, this isn't much, but I think you'll like it. Liam hesitated before unwrapping the gift, revealing a shiny silver pocket watch. Wow, he whispered, running his fingers over the intricate design. It belonged to my grandfather, Barron explained. He used to say that time is the most valuable thing we have. I want you to remember that. No matter how hard things get, every moment matters. Meanwhile, Keanu was busy orchestrating the evening's surprise. He had arranged for a local choir to perform Christmas carols, and when they began to sing, the entire room fell silent. As the night went on, Barron and Keanu took turns serving food, engaging with the families, and ensuring everyone felt included. The children gravitated towards Barron, who had an uncanny ability to make them laugh with his playful jokes and stories. Keanu, ever the humble star, spent much of his time talking to the parents, offering words of encouragement and support. By the time the evening wound down, the shelter was filled with a sense of renewed hope. Families who had once felt forgotten now saw a glimmer of light in their darkest hours. And while the food, gifts, and decorations were appreciated, it was the genuine kindness and compassion shown by Keanu and Barron that truly made the night unforgettable. As they prepared to leave, the shelter manager approached them, her eyes brimming with tears. You've changed lives tonight, she said, not just with what you've brought, but with your presence. Thank you. Keanu nodded, his own eyes misty. It's not about us, it's about them. They're the real heroes, surviving and holding on to hope every day. Barron added, and this is just the beginning. Let's make this a tradition. Outside, the snow had begun to fall, blanketing the city in white. Keanu and Barron stood together, watching the families through the shelter's glowing windows. Open, Matthijhild. You know, Keanu said, breaking the silence, I think this might be the best Christmas I've ever had. Barry smiled. Me too. It feels good to give back, doesn't it? Keanu nodded, better than anything else. The two of them walked away, their hearts full, knowing they had not only made a difference that night, but had inspired countless others to do the same. As the night drew to a close, Keanu and Barron returned to the shelter to check one last thing off their list. Unbeknownst to the families, Keanu had made arrangements for something that would change their lives far beyond a single Christmas evening. Inside, the children had begun to fall asleep, their faces soft with the peaceful dreams that come from feeling safe and loved. Parents sat together, many of them sharing stories for the first time in years, buoyed by the kindness they'd been shown. Keanu stepped onto the small stage, his presence commanding yet gentle. "Excuse me, everyone," he said, his voice carrying through the room. The murmurs quieted as all eyes turned toward him. "I just want to say how much tonight has meant to me and Barron. Seeing all of you here reminds us of what really matters. Family, love, and hope. But Christmas isn't just about one night. It's about building a future where every night can feel this full of hope." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle before continuing. "That's why Barron and I have decided to make sure this shelter, and all of you, have what you need to keep going. Not just today, but for years to come." Gasps rippled through the room as Keanu explained that he had funded a complete renovation of the shelter. New bedrooms, a modern kitchen, and classrooms for children to learn and grow. All of it would soon become a reality. The families listened in stunned silence, as he promised that no one would have to fight alone anymore. J. Cooper wrote just how much would be required like this. They would need to basically help themselves, breast front and back, before they could manage it. Barron stepped forward next, holding a small piece of paper. "And there's one more thing. We've set up a fund for each family here tonight. Whether you need food, clothes, or a fresh start, we want to help. Megan nodded. Tears streamed down the faces of the parents. One mother stood up, her voice shaking. "Ah, you don't know what this means to us. My kids, they'll have a chance now. Thank you." Keanu smiled at her, his own emotions barely contained. "You deserve it, every single one of you." Just as the room began to settle, a voice called out from the back. It was Liam, the boy from the alley. He held Lily's hand tightly as he stepped forward, his face full of determination. "Mr. Reeves? Mr. Trump?" he said, his voice trembling. Keanu and Barron turned toward him, giving him their full attention. I don't know how to thank you. You've done so much for us tonight. But there's something I need to say. All my life, I've felt like we were invisible, like no one cared. But tonight, you made us feel like we matter. You made me believe that maybe the world isn't such a bad place after all." The room fell silent as Liam's words hung in the air. Keanu walked over to him, kneeling so they were at eye level. "You're not invisible, Liam. And you never were. People just forget to look sometimes. But that doesn't mean you're not worth seeing." Barron knelt beside them, pulling a small wrapped gift from his pocket. "This is for you," he said. Liam unwrapped it carefully, revealing a book titled Dream Big, Stories of Hope and Courage. Inside, a note from Keanu read, "To Liam, because your story is one of those that will inspire others one day." The boy clutched the book to his chest, his eyes shining with a mixture of gratitude and resolve. Outside, the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, casting the city in a soft golden glow. Snowflakes continued to fall, blanketing the world in a quiet, peaceful stillness. As the families prepared to leave, they hugged Keanu and Barron, their gratitude spilling over in words and tears. The children waved goodbye, their arms full of toys and their hearts full of hope. When the last family had gone, Keanu and Barron stood together in the now empty shelter. "We did good tonight," Barron said, his voice soft but steady. Keanu nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "Yeah, but this is just the beginning." Barron grinned. "Next Christmas?" Keanu chuckled. "Bigger and better." And with that, the two walked out into the snowy morning, their footprints marking the start of a journey that would inspire countless others to follow in their steps.